This episode is not sponsored, but we encourage you to help support the small businesses, charities, and organisations that we mention.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Our Circle. I'm Rhiannon.
And I'm Jess.
I'm so excited for this episode. So welcome to our first episode of Film Club. I want this to be a semi-regular episode that we do, and I think we'd planned to do this actually in our first season, but the episode just didn't work. So we want to talk about some of our favorite films and TV shows that we're watching at the moment to share with you all, and hopefully you can enjoy them and, let us know what you think of them. And maybe you can let us know yours as well. I don't know if anyone knows this, but I'm a bit of a film nerd. So I'm excited. I can talk about films for so long and TV shows. I think Jess is more of a TV person and I'm more of a film person, I feel like would be semi-fair to say.
Yeah, I think so.
But we both love both.
Yeah, I think it's due to time for me. I think
Yeah.
like with a TV show, it's easy to kind of watch your 20-minute episode and then like move on to something else if you have to. But the film, I feel like I don't like pausing it in the middle and coming back to it. You can watch the whole thing, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so like greedy. That's why I think I like the film, because I'm like, yeah, more.
Yeah.
But then again, saying that, I suppose TV shows are longer. So anyway, so let's get straight into it. I think it makes sense for me to talk about this film just because I've watched it at least 5 times this week, and I think I haven't stopped talking about it to anyone who will listen. So I'm just going to put it out there. So basically, I'm a big fan of BTS. They are a boy band. They are the biggest boy band in the world, but I think a lot of people still don't know about them in the UK. I don't know how, but anyway. And they are a huge Korean pop band, so a K-pop band, and they recently have gone on a sort of like a break so that they can focus on their own careers, but they're still a band and still come back together and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, a couple of days ago, I suppose just over a week ago or so, I was feeling really down, and usually I love listening to BTS to cheer me up, but then I felt even more down because I was like, oh, they're not together, I miss them. And then I logged on to Disney Plus, and they had released a 2-hour and 11-minute concert of theirs that happened in LA in 2021, and I was just like, oh my god. And sorry, but I felt so excited. I nearly cried. I think I did tear up at moments, but it was just so exciting to see because it was their first like big tour, I think, since the pandemic. So there was going to be a lot of, I guess, not necessarily changes, but I suppose the way that I thought the audience might have been. So for example, like people wearing masks, stuff like that. I think I can speak for a lot of people that when you see live music and people uniting together through music, it's so special. I think it's like such a magical thing. Jess and I have gone to so many concerts together, and I always get like tingles when we're seeing someone live. It's just such a fun
it's
feeling.
moving.
It is. And I think when you're watching that on a TV, you're not always sure if you're going to get that same feeling. And the way that they shot this, I was just like, so I felt like I was there. I was so excited for everyone in the audience. And when you saw how they all screamed and reacted, I was just like, oh my God, I got so like butterflies and goosebumps all over me. And I wondered how I could get people to watch this, because I thought, it might not be everyone's thing listening to K-pop. It's half in English and half in Korean. I don't know, some people get put off music if they can't follow along with lyrics and stuff. I personally don't ever care about if I understand the lyrics or not. I'm always into music, so I'm just like, yep, sure, I'm gonna dance along no matter what. I got my brother to come down. I was like, look at this, and he's into them, but not in the same way as I am. He enjoys their music, but I was just like, you have to see them perform this live. I haven't been able to make him sit down for the whole 2 hours solid, but I got him to watch different parts of it. And he's like, this
Sixth time lucky this week.
But he was like, this is sick. If they come here, I'll go and see them live with you.
Ooh.
That made me so happy because I was like, oh, good. This isn't just in my brain and I'm acting like a 15-year-old here. And I mean, I am acting like a 15-year-old, but I wanted someone else to validate that watching this film and showcasing a band and how they unite a whole crowd of people, but also their whole fan base in this way, I just think so magic to watch. So whether you're into them or not, I think just giving it a try just to get that vibe is amazing. And you also get a couple of behind the scene moments. So when they're sort of doing what's it called, like when their costume change shows behind the scenes, so them, say for example, getting off like the stage that goes up and down and the floor or whatever, it shows them coming off that and quickly running to their dressing room to change, and you're seeing how exhausted they are and like the sort of scars that they've got from accidents and all this sort of thing. You're just like, oh my god, they're going through so much to be able to put on such a great performance, and then the second they're back on stage, you're just like, oh, flawless. It's just amazing. So I just would really recommend watching that. I know I sound stupid, but I really don't care. It's such a good show to watch. And the reason I've watched it so many times is because I've watched it where I've watched it solidly. And then I've also had it on in the background where I'm like just dancing away whilst doing some work or something, or like making dinner. Like it's one of those things that's just so enjoyable. And funny enough, I know that you might roll your eyes at this, Jess, but I genuinely think you'd love it, because I was watching it thinking if Jess and I were at this, she would be going mental. I just know it.
No, I wouldn't roll my eyes at that. I have listened to some of their music before, and I must admit I was only introduced to them through you. I'm pretty sure you told me to listen to them and Blackpink.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay, right. We won't go.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I know my limit.
And obviously they did that song with Coldplay.
Oh, I've cried listening to that this week.
Yeah, I absolutely love that song. It gives me, it's like you were saying, if you like a band or whatever, and you just get that vibe, like if you listen to their music, it can just make you feel a certain way. And when I listen to that song, it makes me literally get up and dance. Like it makes me so happy. And so to imagine like a whole concert like that, and like they must be the biggest band in the world for a reason. Like they must make a lot of people feel a certain way. So yeah, I'd totally be up for watching it. I might regret saying that.
I won't force it. I won't. But if you tell me that you're about to watch it, like give me some warning so I can watch it at the same time or with you.
Press play right at the same time.
Well, no, truly, I think, like I've said, if you're not into that music, I get it, but it's the message behind it all. They're so big on inclusivity and everyone being together and being kind to each other, and it's just such a positive message. And then they're gorgeous, and that they like have amazing dance moves, and it's just everything I could want. And I would like to marry Jungkook, so if he hears this, I'm just putting it out there right now. Anyway, Jess, tell me about your film.
I wouldn't say it's a film that I was in love with. It's just one that I've watched most recently, so I thought I'd talk about it. It's called Don't Worry, Darling. It's the new film that Olivia Wilde produced, I want to say. And there's been a lot of drama in the media just based around the actors and some of them not turning up to interviews and all that kind of thing. So it's getting a lot of media attention at the moment, and obviously Harry Styles is in it, so he's got a whole fan base in itself that are just going to go wild for anything that he's in.
I can't remember what his fans are called.
Oh, that's a good question, actually. I'm not sure.
I'll look it up while you keep going.
Okay, so yeah, anyways, I won tickets on my O2 Priority app to go and see the film, like an early screening the day before it came out. For some reason, I didn't read anything about it before I went, and I thought for some reason it was going to be a rom-com. I don't know why. I think because the picture on the poster is like a couple lying in bed, so I just assumed, which I shouldn't have done.
I just felt awful for you when you said that. I had no idea that you didn't know what you were, and I was quite surprised actually when you said that you're going to. I was like, oh, maybe she's like more of a Harry Styles fan than I realized or something. Like,
yeah, no, I'm not. But okay, cool, free film. Like, why not go? And then I was just like very unpleasantly surprised when I got there, and it was a psychological thriller, and I was sat through this film literally hiding behind Joe. I was so petrified. I just thought I'm very sensitive to sort of horror films, or I think psychological thrillers are the worst because they just mess with your head, don't they? And it wasn't the most enjoyable. I did have preconceptions before going in there, because I told some friends of mine that I was going to see it, and they were like, oh, I've heard that Harry Styles' performance isn't very good. So I kind of went in there thinking, okay, Harry's not going to be
Harry's going to be shit, but
yeah,
here we go. Like,
yeah,
it'll be fun.
I was like, yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, whatever. I didn't think he had the worst acting in it. I think he did fairly well considering he's, first and foremost, he's a singer, he's a music artist. But the only thing was that his accent was changing throughout the film.
That's where, yeah, that I really struggle with actors when they do that. I'm like, come on now, commit.
Yeah, like be consistent. Like at least like if you're gonna stick
Do
to
your job.
if you're gonna stick to your northern accent, fine, do it. But then don't turn American halfway through because that's
Oh,
just very,
weird,
very odd. Very
weird.
odd. But no, I say that I didn't enjoy it, but I've thought about it a lot in the past few days since I've seen it.
Oh,
Like I do
interesting.
go back to thinking about it. I'm like, oh, okay, that was very interesting the way that that was shot, or the way that that actor was. I thought that Florence Pugh, I think that's her name, I thought she was really good in it. I found myself today looking up on YouTube about the drama between Olivia Wilde and the rest of, or well, and Florence Pugh, I guess.
Mm.
Just trying to find out like what it was, and like I kind of try and imagine myself on set with the actors. I don't know if you ever do that, like you
Yeah,
just kind of
always.
think, oh, yeah. So I was thinking like, oh, I wonder what it was like, because apparently Harry and Olivia would just like disappear for long periods of time, like because
Yeah.
they're in a relationship. And
And
obviously we're
obviously that
probably doing,
was so many people at the time didn't know that Olivia Wilde and Jason Sudeikis had split. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's a bit uncomfortable, I guess, for the crew if they
Yeah,
didn't
I
know
don't know
that.
whether Florence is friends with Jason or what. I don't know, but I think she was particularly felt uncomfortable with it, and it was just, I guess, assumed that Olivia had cheated on Jason
Right.
with
Yeah.
Harry. So yeah, a load of
It's a
personal
shame.
stuff went
It's
into
kind
it.
of a shame when things outside of a movie affect how people's viewing experience, I guess. Like how they're
Yeah,
going to go
and
in already not feeling or
I think
feeling some
that's
kind of
why
way.
they've chosen not to fuel it. I think no one's commented on it or tried to avoid commenting on it. Obviously, is it Shia LaBeouf? Like he
That's
leaked
what I,
that video of Olivia Wilde saying something about calling Florence Miss Flo.
oh, I haven't seen that, but I was going to ask you. I don't know how familiar you are with Shia LaBeouf, like as an actor, but I wondered if you could have pictured him in that role that he was meant to be doing. It was,
Mm,
wasn't it for Harry's role?
yes, it was. And apparently, Olivia Wilde made out that Shia gave her an ultimatum and said it's either Florence or myself, and and that she chose Florence.
Yeah.
Like because their personalities clashed or something like that,
Okay.
and that Shia's kind of vibe on set wasn't what Olivia wanted.
Okay.
Whereas Shia then leaked the video of Olivia asking him, "Oh, please give it a shot." All of this and some messages, I think. But I don't want to give anyone spoilers. But there's a part in the film where things sort of take a dark turn, and you start to realize that Harry Styles' character is not who he was portrayed to be throughout most of the film.
Right.
And you start to understand why things are a certain way. And when it started to take more of a darker turn, that's when I was like, oh, okay, that's where I can see Shia coming in. Like, I don't know him that well as a
Interesting.
character, but I know there's always some controversy around him.
Right.
And I can picture him in a bit more of a kind of darker role personally, just from like first glance, not knowing much about him. But no, I think when I first came out of the film, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to sleep tonight. Like, this is kind of scary.
Mm,
But the fact that I've gone back to it and started thinking about it over the past few days, I'm like, okay, maybe it has made a little bit of an impact on me.
mm.
But now we're talking about films we really like. I know what one I'm going to do for our next episode. So we'll tune in for
Oh,
that one.
what a talk about putting us on a cliffhanger there.
Cliffhanger. I don't know about you, but like there are old films that definitely have had more of a long-term impact on me and my life and kind of like as a viewer than modern films have. There are only a couple of modern films that have really touched me, and those are ones I'd like to speak about in the next episode. But yeah, I'll leave it on that note that I think I enjoyed. Don't worry, darling, but that was only I wouldn't have chosen to go and watch it. It's kind of yeah, under false pretenses.
That's so funny. Okay, well, let's talk about a TV show. And that actually is quite a nice segue for me there because you mentioned old things. I'm currently
Mhm.
into a really old TV show called The Golden Girls. And I found this again on Disney Plus. Disney Plus is really coming in clutch for me. Like they're really doing me a solid.
Mhm.
So, for anyone who has never heard of The Golden Girls, it's one of the most famous sitcoms of all time and kind of puts sitcoms. I don't want to say on the map because the sitcoms had been around before then, but the person who is in the Golden Girls is the reason that sitcoms exist, and that is Betty White. I'd heard of this TV show probably throughout my whole life and had never watched it. And if you're hearing me say this for the first time or mentioning the Golden Girls for the first time, you are probably going to start realizing that every TV show you've ever watched has a reference to it. They mention it, bring it up in conversation. They will mention the actors or actresses in it. I can't think of one TV show that I've watched that hasn't referenced them. So
Wow.
that's why I'd started watching it a few weeks ago. And my brother had just sort of come downstairs, seen that I was watching it, asked a bit about it. And then he went upstairs to go and watch an episode of This Is Us. And This Is Us was watching not Gilmore Girls, Golden Girls, the original GG. So, you know, it creeps into everyday life. I really, really love it. It is about four older women living together in Miami, three who are best friends, and one who is the mother of one of the three women. So they're sort of in their 60s and 80s. And they're all single because they're either their partners have passed away or they've, you know, got divorced later on in life. And it's just them navigating their life together as best friends getting old. And it's really, really funny. It's sort of dated at moments, but if anything, it's actually very forward thinking for its time. They were kind of known for pushing the boundaries in the era so it came out in the 80s, I think around 85. I could be wrong, don't hold me to that. But at that time, you know, there are certain things that weren't discussed or even tried to be mentioned on TV, in shows, things like that. And Betty White is kind of known for being quite a trailblazer for things like that. She was known for, I think she sang or danced with a black guy in the 60s or maybe even earlier. And someone said to her, you can't do that. And she basically said, fuck off, and did it anyway. And then her show got cancelled or something like that for it. But, you know, I love that these pillars in the showbiz world have continued sticking true to themselves and trying to do things like that. So while there are moments where you're like, ooh, that's a bit unacceptable to say now, or a bit like a weird thing to hear at times, the show itself, when you put yourself in like where they were at the 80s, is actually very forward. I think a lot of the jokes hold up. I think it's really easy to watch. So if you're having a bad day, there's nothing nasty happening in it. It's all pretty hilarious, and it's very witty and smart and very quick. So I'd highly recommend watching that. And I'm currently loving it. As I'm someone who gets a little bit nervous at times when traveling on trains and like long journeys. And if I've got my phone where I can just quickly download an episode to just get me through like a good 20 minutes of a journey, Golden Girls is going on. It's been really helpful.
I'm really intrigued because from what you described, it gives me a little bit of Grace and Frankie vibes.
Yes, very
Am I
much like
correct?
Grace and Frankie vibes. Very much just from
So
the
I feel like
80s.
I like it then because I really like Grace and Frankie. So
Yeah, it's not the difference with Grace and Frankie, for anyone who hasn't seen it, that isn't like a in front of a live audience or in a set where people are sort of doing the laughter track sort of thing. Whereas it's very obvious, sort of, you know, like how Friends is, that was obviously done in front of a live audience where you have the laughter and stuff. That was what I keep wanting to say Gilmore Girls, Golden Girls, Golden Girls was. And yeah, it's just brilliant. And they're such sort of strong characters as well. I'm not going to be giving anything away here, like by describing the characters, but you've got the mother, who is an Italian woman. Well, she was born in Sicily and then moved to New York. So she's a woman who sounds like she's from New York, but she'll always be referencing Italy and her time like during the war and stuff like that. So obviously very sturdy, strong and feisty. And then her daughter, who's very strong, feisty, but a bit more less blunt at times, I guess, than maybe her mother, but still blunt compared to the other two. You've got another woman who is single and loves to date anything with a pulse, and it's hysterical to watch, especially when it's coming from an older woman. I don't know why, and that's the other thing that I always loved about Grace and Frankie, is like the idea to normalize that older women and older people can still date and want the sex life and stuff like that. So it's sort of reinforcing that idea, which is hilarious. And then you have Betty White's character, who's actually my least favorite character in the whole show. She's a complete square, meaning she's just from like, she's a country bumpkin. She doesn't really know much about life in many ways, and she's very sweet, but there's not like there's not crazy amounts to her, and then suddenly she might throw in a random curveball and you're like, what did she just say? And you just laugh your head off, and it's just very easy to watch. And then there's a couple of like recurring characters like ex-husbands and stuff like that. But yeah, I highly recommend it if you just want something easy to watch and something that you don't have to take too seriously. I'd definitely recommend The Golden Girls. What about you, Jess?
Good. My one is Impractical Jokers. It's one that I just go to it, again, like if I want an easy watch, I'm winding down in the evening and I just want something funny, silly, non-offensive most of the time to watch. Have you ever watched it?
I don't know if I'm thinking of the right thing. Tell me about it.
Impractical Jokers. So it's four guys. They actually went to high school together, so they've known each other like all their lives, pretty much. And they just do pranks basically on
Oh,
like,
are they American?
yeah,
Yes, I do know. I was thinking of Taskmaster for some reason because you'd said that was another thing that you watched with Joe, isn't it?
yeah, it's more Joe's thing than mine.
Yeah,
But
okay, so not that. Yes, I have. I don't know if I've watched a full episode, but I've seen enough to know what they do.
yeah, and I just think it's hilarious. I just think that they are very funny people. They all have their own personalities and they're both their own quirks and like things that they're scared of and things like that, and they all play up to it. So they basically have a scoring system throughout each episode. So if someone fails to do a task, they might have an earpiece in, and they're one of the other guys are telling them to say something to a stranger or do something, and they're like, "There's no way I can say that." They'll be on the loser board and kind of lose that episode. And then at the end, they have to do like a forfeit. So if someone's really scared of spiders or whatever, they might do like
Like a challenge to do with that or something.
yeah, they're like basically like punished for it at the end of the episode.
Right, okay.
But it's just really feel good kind of easy watch, and I really really enjoy it. And I just think it's just so almost childish that I
You know, it sounds
yeah.
like it sounds a bit like Jackass, like a tamer version of Jackass.
Yeah, I think so. From what you've said, I've never watched it, but from what you've said, they do the premise of it sounds very similar,
It's
but
just
it's
a
just
bunch of
really
friends who are being silly together, really, and just doing
yeah.
pranks. And
And it's really nice because I feel like you feel like you're part of their friendship group sometimes because
yeah,
they've known each other for so long, and they share their like memories and like funny stories and stuff they had together growing up. I just really like it. So I think I definitely recommend that for anyone who's not watched it. And that's just on Comedy Central. That's like on there like all the time. So well, I'm sure you can find it online. But yeah, highly recommend.
I feel like things like that, so where it's a friendship group of some
Mm,
sort and you're watching it, you definitely get that feeling like you're part of their friendship group because they're sharing those moments with the viewer. So
yeah,
therefore you sort of feel like you're part of it and you get invested. I think it's a very from a producer point of view, it's a smart way to grip an audience because you're
yeah.
instantly invested and you try to relate to one of the people in a group.
Mm,
That's probably
mm,
why Golden Girls as well, because that's a group.
yeah.
BTS is a group. No group and what's the thing you called? Darling something?
Oh, yeah, it's kind of a really a messed up group, so we
Yeah, that
won't
would be
go
why you didn't
into
love it then.
that.
Well, I think we'll leave it there, but I'm very keen to keep doing episodes like this where we talk about some of our favorite films because there's a very, very long list and of TV shows as well. So let us know if you've seen either of the films or TV shows that we've spoken about and what you're currently watching at the moment. Are there any recommendations that you want to give us? I think we'll probably put this on our story actually. So once this episode comes out, we'll put on our story a little on Instagram thing that you can let us know your recommendations and we can check them out and see if we've done them. So since movies and TV shows make us so happy, I wanted to dedicate this episode to a account and a organization. I think is probably the best word, maybe a business. I don't know what the right word is for this company. They're called the Happy Newspaper. One of my girlfriends bought me a subscription to them, and it's where you get 4 newspapers in a year filled with happy news from all over the world, and they also deliver internationally, so it's something that anyone can have access to. The newspapers themselves are teamed up with the Eden Project, so each time a subscriber has received a newspaper, they plant a tree to replace or help the environment, which I think is great. And it's just filled with so many other brilliant things, such as charities, and there'll be a list of charities that we'll be using for our dedications that I've got from their newspaper because I've never heard of them before, and I think what a great way to find out about other people in the world that need our help, and just hearing about all the good things that are happening in the world. So if you want to check them out, you can go onto Instagram at The Happy Newspaper, and you can find their website, thehappynewspaper.com. Thank you everyone for listening. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you on our next episode. Bye.
Bye.